So, I have been very fortunate to be able to go out to networking events, and I've kind of always had the idea that I can just listen to people talk. You go to networking events and everyone is there to meet new people, and it's a very friendly place to go to. And one of the secrets I learned from Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, is just to ask questions. People really do enjoy talking about themselves. You can ask what they do and ask how they got into that, what their biggest challenges are, and they're more than happy to tell you. And then inevitably, the conversation can come to who manages your books.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a great one. Our guest is a virtual financial manager, profit advisor, and founder of Upfront Consulting. Michael Braun, welcome to the show.
Hello, Michael. Thank you for inviting me on.
Well, it's great to have you, and I'm really excited about hearing your story. We met, of course, on LinkedIn, which is the way of the world today. And just hearing a little bit of your story, I knew instantly that I wanted to have you on the show to share your story with others.
Excellent. Well, thanks for having me here.
Yeah. So let's hear your career journey leading up to this point running Upfront Consulting.
Yes. Well, I started my career with WestJet in 1999 as a flight attendant. And after being hired, I began this intense training program with operations manuals, standard operating procedures. And so from the very beginning, I saw how a systemized approach to business is one of the key ingredients to the success of a company. And so during my time there, I trained customer service, hired flight attendants, managed performance, and was part of the management team that grew their department from 400 to 2,000.
Wow.
And so it was quite an experience to see a company evolve from that state. In 2014, I was growing restless and decided I needed a change. I had taken one accounting course from SAIT here in Calgary and decided to leave my position at WestJet to work for a theatrical production company. This was in the spring of 2015, and as the fall of 2015 rolled around, we entered a big recession here in Alberta. And I saw all of the sales numbers plummet for the company, and sure enough, I found out I was being let go. And so it was really challenging. I had left a very secure job, and now I was out of work during a recession with a young 4-year-old son and no specific skill set. So that was tough.
I can imagine.
So I had two choices, look for work or go back to school. And I chose the latter. And in the fall, winter of 2015, I signed up for 20 university courses at SAIT. I took them all through correspondence, and I studied and studied and studied at home by myself. And 1 year later, I graduated with a straight A average. And so after completing these courses, I had a good friend who'd been following my journey ask if I could be the bookkeeper for their construction company. I, of course, said yes. And then I called my mom, who was a bookkeeper for 30 years, to ask for advice.
Wow. I love this.
Yeah. So it was so funny because, I had tried so many different career choices throughout my career while at WestJet, just trying to find the fit for me. And through this very challenging way, I actually wound up on the same career path as my mom. So, yeah, wow. Who would have thought?
All paths lead to home.
Yes, exactly. So I'm so thankful. She has taken so much time with me to teach me, because there's one thing about accounting theory and the other is actually putting it into practice. Mm. And so even though I could call on her for advice, she actually lived in Saskatchewan at the time. So the new challenge is, how do I self-teach myself? So I went to lynda.com, which was an online school at the time, took a 20-hour basic bookkeeping course, and was able to learn enough to service my friend's company.
Wow.
And so just continued learning and learning, but a few clients at $30 an hour is not enough to live on. And so I had to take a job with a multinational dental lab. And with them, I was hired on in the marketing department and immediately asked to be transferred to the accounts receivable department. And so this was such another great learning opportunity. We had thousands and thousands of clients. And so I was able to see how a very large company processed all of their accounts receivable. And then after a few months, I actually then got transferred into the accounts payable department and had the same experience where I got to see how this multinational company processed a significant amount of accounts payable procedures. And all the while, there wasn't much of a systems manual and there wasn't much of processes built in. And so while doing this, I'm working 8 hours a day for the company and going home every night and working on my own clients' books, going out to networking events, and just doing everything I can to build up my own company because I had the entrepreneur bug. It was time to take this opportunity that bookkeeping provides and build my own life, which is and has been the most rewarding thing.
Wow. That is such a cool journey. And so a couple of things that I think are remarkable about the story is you're going through adversity, losing your job, you have a young family, but yet you went the higher road, really, which is to go and do that education at a very established and reputable organization, school, the SAIT, which is the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, and did this compact training around the fundamentals of accounting.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I think what I hear from many of our listeners and from the community and from our clients in pure bookkeeping is when they're looking for people, the skill sets out there are missing that core fundamental accounting understanding, and you went right to that right away, which I think is a really smart move for your journey.
Thank you.
Now, having done that, have you noticed how that was of benefit to you?
Yes, it just gave me such a concrete example of what we're trying to achieve within the bookkeeping framework. And debits and credits is so important. And I still use my textbooks. I refer back to them. And, even right now I'm setting up a company with inventory, and they use, work in progress and finished goods. And I'm able to reference all of my material that I learned and still use that. And so those principles are relevant even today. And it's just given me such a solid position to base my company on.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other piece to that is you had mentorship from someone who'd been there, your mother who's been doing this for decades, getting that knowledge, but also taking additional training. You said it was Lynda, Linda.
Yeah, I think it might be Lynda.
Okay.
But, and of course now, even a few years later, there's so many different online courses to pull upon as resources. But even back then, it seemed kind of such a new technology and such a new way of learning just to take these courses online. That was only 3 or 4 years ago. So,
wow, remarkable. And so now you're into clients. You're bringing on clients. And what's the journey been like now?
So, I have been very fortunate to be able to go out to networking events, and I've kind of always had the idea that I can just listen to people talk. You go to networking events and everyone is there to meet new people, and it's a very friendly place to go to. And one of the secrets I learned from Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, is just to ask questions. people really do enjoy talking about themselves. You can ask what they do and ask how they got into that, what their biggest challenges are, and they're more than happy to tell you. And then inevitably, the conversation can come to who manages your books.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. And they will tell you, actually, I'm having struggles right now. I'm looking for a bookkeeper. That is so convenient. I actually am a bookkeeper. I would love to talk to you more about that. Let's do the business card exchange. And it's such a natural way to do it. And there's ways that you can help train yourself. I know some people can be maybe a bit more introverted within the bookkeeping profession, but there are strategies that you can use. And I know they've been talked about on this podcast, and they do work. They do work, and it's practice and repetition.
Yeah, and I would point out anyone that is someone like that should be listening to the Ivan Meisner episodes. There's 2 of them that we've done. Ivan is the founder of Business Networking International, and those are really valuable episodes that talk about that. How do you actually get conversations going? But I don't know that anybody has actually mentioned Dale Carnegie's book on the podcast yet, and I think that is an old book, but that is one of the most, I think, significant books. And I think the title in today's world maybe is misunderstood. How to win friends and influence people. It sounds a bit like if you said that to somebody, it'd be kind of weird. But the point is that the book is filled chock-a-block. If you're willing to look over some of the older philosophies that no longer exist, there's core fundamental ideas in there that will make life go a lot smoother.
Definitely.
And you mentioned one of them, which is have other people talk about themselves.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And just try to bring out what makes them tick and what their challenges are, right? It really does allow you to structure a conversation and to be an engaging conversationalist with minimal skills, right? You can just ask, oh, why did you do that? Or how did you start becoming into business, right? So...
Excellent. Tell us about how you heard about the Institute of Professional Bookkeepers and what you're hoping to get from belonging to that organization.
Well, I've been aware of the Institute of Professional Bookkeepers for a while right now. And through the recommendations from yourself, I've now put in my application to become a member of their organization and continue along the path of being the most professional bookkeeper that I can. I don't have to make any of this stuff up. I don't have to guess what the best path is. Success leaves clues, and I can just keep on following those clues because at the end of the day, it's providing the most professional service to our clients.
Beautiful. So now you mentioned, I think it was either $30 or $40 an hour. Hey, this is not enough to raise a family on. And one of the things you've commented on from the podcast is learning about pricing and having a pretty big win with bringing on a new client. Tell us that story.
Yes. So I think it was about episode 30. I actually started when I found out about the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I listened to a few of the current episodes, then went to episode 1 and started listening from the beginning. And it was about episode 30 where Mark Wickersham starts talking about value pricing. And of course, I was intrigued. I immediately watched hours and hours of his free content, and it struck such a chord. We work ridiculously long hours for such little pay. And the faster and faster we get and the more knowledgeable we are, our pay keeps dropping, which just does not make sense at all. So I signed up for his monthly value pricing academy, and he starts going over one topic a month. Let's say it's payroll, and he goes full into depth, about an hour and a half, about everything to do with payroll and how to assign it a value and what the different components of payroll can be. From there, I signed up to his cloud pricing software training. And this is a computer program that he's put an immense amount of work and passion and dedication into. And what it does is it allows you to go into a client's meeting and actually use software to determine the price of the service. So with this cloud pricing software, you also get one-on-one training with an accountant who has built and sold his own accounting practice, Jamie, and he now trains bookkeepers and accountants in the software. So everyone in his organization has so much experience, and they're really there just to help our profession get a price that they can live on and they can keep on providing value to business owners.
Wow. Wow. So you did all this training, and it's not the first time that I've heard people hearing an episode, taking action. And I mean, Mark Wickersham is one that I hear often because he has put out so much valuable free content that enables people to really understand what it is that he's doing and truly prove to people that he is passionate and committed to helping people. You did that, and you took this training. What ended up happening in your business?
So on top of all of this training, I had probably put about 40 hours of work into value pricing. Even with all of the resources I received from the training, I still built up these Excel templates where I could print off one-page components for each of the services I now provide. So I've rebranded bookkeeping as virtual financial management. And of course, I also offer payroll, cloud accounting setup, and then cleanup work. And within each of these different services, there's a list of components. And then I built out tiered pricing models, premium, an essential, and a basic. And so I bring these marketing materials into my meetings with me now. And they're so important because I can actually give a one-page document to a potential client and be like, this is my virtual financial management services. Look at all of these different components. Look at all of the different packages and which one do you see yourself falling into? And so that allows them to self-identify which package they want to be in. They can ask questions about what enhanced accounts receivable monitoring might mean, or what the owner has their own personal expenses in the business. They can ask all the clarifying questions. And then we go through the pricing conversation. I ask them how many bank accounts they have. I ask them how many monthly transactions they have. And all of these different questions then computes a price for them. And so when I bring the price about, it shows the different packages, it shows what the amounts are. And then it's just such a seamless process.
Wow. And for you, how has that changed your experience of presenting a price to people?
It's just given me so much more confidence. And one of the interesting benefits of this whole training is that for each of the components that we offer, in the past, I would say, oh, well, I offer bookkeeping services and we reconcile accounts and I provide the monthly reports. Well, now I have about 15 different components of what that looks like. And I've actually now created sub-processes for each of those components. Because if I'm going to offer basic management service or basic management reporting, I now have in my process template that includes a balance sheet and a profit and loss sheet. But for the full management reporting, it includes that, but also a cash flow report and maybe a monthly meeting as well. So it allows us to really flesh out what we offer and deliver a more comprehensive service.
Wow. And so how has this financially impacted your business?
And so I had one of these meetings, a kind of a practice meeting, and it was okay, but it got me set up for the big one. And so about 3 weeks ago, I was at a networking event and I met a potential lead that needed exactly the service and the experience that I had to offer. And when I went into the pricing meeting, I had all of these different one-page component lists out, and I presented them to the client, and they basically looked at them, scanned them, and said, we'll go with the premium package for everything.
Wow.
And so it was just one of those meant to be moments. And so I went through and they saw the prices. They're like, perfect. They just said, where's the paperwork? Let's just sign. We need you to start right now. And it was one of the happiest moments of my career to have that. And it has made such a big difference financially. Instantly, I was in a much better position financially. And because I had already signed up to Retessa, which is a company that allows you to have pre-authorized debit agreements, I was able to go home that evening and then put the invoice into the company, because I had told them I was going to charge them up front for my services. Another thing I've learned. And that night I put the pre-authorized debit through, and the funds were coming into my account the next week.
That is awesome. I mean, you go out, you go out and you actually come back with a contract signed and put the money instantly into your account. Now, the money took 7 days, which is common for most online transactions these days, but the money came out of their bank a lot sooner than that, right?
Yes.
Deal done. Incredible. You know, I'm at San Jose, QuickBooks Connect San Jose this fall, and talking about the 10 things the most successful bookkeepers will be doing in 2020. And the very first one is mastering the art of pricing. Mm-hmm. And really your journey, I should just bring you up on the stage, tell your story, because it really is, it's not about going and doing one thing. There's not one magic pill that's going to give you your outcome that you just created. It was a heck of a lot of work. You did research, you did listening, other educational courses, and then you took action and you invested in your business. You made an investment with Mark, you made an investment with these other training programs. And that investment probably got paid off in 1 month of that win.
Exactly. Yes.
And so it's go. So for anyone listening, you don't have to spend a nickel right now, but you do have to spend your time. Go out and start looking at and educating yourself about pricing. And that's the foundational step that many people don't do or don't know. It's like, oh, I got to go sign up for a course. I got to do it. No, really, the better option is go consume as much of the free content. Read the books, Ron Baker's book, Mark's book. There's a bunch of books out there. Start reading those, because then when you do the Mark's course, or you do Ron's course, whoever's course you do, you're coming in there already at a level of understanding that's far behind. And I really see that with you, Michael. That's what you've done, as well as doing things like Dale Carnegie and working on yourself. You know, it's not just about being a technician. You've done a lot of training and development, personal development on you as a human being, which I just commend you for that.
Thank you.
So that's an awesome win. Now, what separates you? Like when you bring on a client, what do you think your clients, you do differently and you're proud of what you bring to your clients? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, from day one, I have always wanted to set up a success manual for my clients. So I go into the meetings, I'm taking notes, I go home and I immediately put those into a document, build out some ideas, provide some suggestions, and share that with the client. So I'll have their logo at the top, and then client success manual, name of company, client success manual, and then we go from there. And I just build on it and build on it. And I also immediately implement Receipt Bank into their process. It is one of the biggest bottlenecks between client and bookkeeper. And when you implement Receipt Bank, that goes immediately away. And it actually solves one of the biggest challenges that business owners have with their books.
Wow. So Receipt Bank's one of your tools that you use that differentiates. But that's an awesome strategy, which is the client success manual, which is you're really just documenting how you're going to help them be successful. Mm-hmm. Which is what a great approach. I mean, from a client's perspective, it's like, hey, here's my success manual. I mean, value. What about sales? When you're selling, is this something that you've always been good at selling, or is it something that you've had to muscle up on?
It's another area that I had to muscle up on. I read a couple books from Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar. But I really believe that sale is about a mindset and allowing the universe to bring opportunities to you. So in addition to learning everything I can about bookkeeping, I've also learned how to become thankful for opportunities in advance. For example, let's say your wife bought you tickets to a hot destination for a vacation. You would become immediately excited for that and look forward to it in anticipation. And so the mindset tip is to actually have the same level of excitement for the opportunities that you're not aware of yet. And so I'm very excited in advance, very grateful in advance to grow my business and to have more amazing clients come in and to have more learning opportunities to come in that's going to help me service them in the future. So
that's fantastic. And in terms of, you've mentioned it a few times, but you have done lots of personal development courses. Mm-hmm. You just mentioned a few more. Tell us about some of the really impactful ones that you've done that you feel others should maybe look at.
So one of the main books that I always recommend is called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. And it really does teach you on how to do exactly that, how to be grateful for opportunities in advance. And it's changed a lot of people's lives. I always recommend it. Another great resource is Mastery by Robert Greene. And there's about 30 to 40 different stories in there of individuals throughout history who have started from nothing and through continued perseverance built themselves into renowned figures that we all recognize now. Another few ones, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And in that book, he challenges you to think about what would you give up in order to be successful? So if any of the listeners are, a lot of us are striving for that, it's kind of the question is, what would you give up in order to be successful? So we all have some things that maybe we need to give up. Yeah.
Interesting. And what was that? Can you remember what you identified as what you were willing to give up?
Yes, I can actually. So at that moment, I gave up drinking for 6 months and, taking alcohol, which was fine. As kind of a normal person, but I still went out to all of these events and I just made a commitment just to talk to people and network in the best way I could. And then because I was under such a time pressure, so many responsibilities, I would go home after a night out and be up 6 o'clock the next morning, working on the books, working on learning.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so some fantastic recommendations there. You've also mentioned a few other books, Profit First, the E-Myth. Tell us a little bit about your experience with those.
So Profit First was recommended to me by a client, and the way that Mike describes on how you need to separate all of your income into different categories was another great game changer, and I implemented it for myself immediately. So every time I have money come into my account, I put a certain percentage towards operating expenses, towards profit for myself. I also put a portion towards myself for my own pay, and I put money aside for taxes. And so even right now at this moment, I have my 2019 tax allotment just sitting in a bank account.
Remarkable in terms of how it's changing your financial situation just by new behaviors, new habits.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's fascinating, and it's making a big difference for so many business owners around the world, which is great. Love that book and love what Mike is doing with Ron and ending entrepreneurial. Eradicating entrepreneurial. Oh, darn it. I had a t-shirt of it, but anyways, darn it. I hope he doesn't listen to the episode. I can't even remember. Anyways, well, maybe think of it. But fantastic. And then E-Myth. What was your E-Myth journey like?
It was really refreshing to read just because I had always lived this systemized workflow. And so just when Michael's describing the woman in the kitchen baking the pies and the systems that need to go into place. It just resonated and it just made me realize that I was on the right path. It's like continue systemizing and build everything out. And in order to grow your business, you have to take that path. You know, if you want to get away from the struggle and the hardships of not knowing what to do and just overworking yourself, you need to have at least one other employee. You know, division of labor is such a amazing concept that was created back in the 1800s when they were making pins in England. And we're able to accomplish so much more if we can properly hire and train at least one other employee.
Beautiful. You know, it's one of those books that every small business owner must read is E-Myth, Michael Gerber's original book. Of course, Debbie Roberts, who we've had on the show, and Peter Cook wrote E-Myth Bookkeeper, which looks at building systems and process and really systems thinking. I love the concept of solve every problem with the system. And you're really doing that. You're solving the problems in your business, in your life with a system, the way you approach sales, the way you approach your pricing, the way you're approaching your quality of the work that you do with your success manual. These are all systems that you're implementing that you can someday train and document, train others, someone else to do it, and divide that labor and expand and scale your business, which is remarkable. Now, I did just Google Mike's tagline. I don't know that it's this tagline for their business, but what they're up to. Their mission is eradicating entrepreneurial poverty. I got it.
Yes,
so, yeah. Mike, if you're listening, I did get it right eventually. Remarkable story. How has this impacted now your life? You have a small child. What's life like now, having gone through all of this?
Well, I am feeling that I live a fulfilled life, and I have a lot more personal self-esteem, learning about the value that I can bring to business owners. And, you know, we all live these lives, and, you know, happiness and success and financial success are all intertwined in there. And I feel like I'm fully hitting a lot of those targets, and personal growth is actually one of the key drivers of that.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it's great to hear you're taking care of your family, you're helping others take care of their families. That's what it's all about, being a small business owner and someone who serves small business owners. So my hat's off to you. So generous in terms of what you've shared with us today. And I know we'll have you back to share your journey, because you've done a lot in a very short period of time, very inspirational. And I really hope that our listeners see something in this for themselves, where they can take on something in their life that ups their game and takes them further towards having the business that they love.
Definitely.
Beautiful. You know, one last thing I'll mention is, Michael, you came out and thanked me for the podcast, which I really, really appreciated. It's always nice to hear from listeners to know that they're getting value. I mean, when we do these episodes, there isn't a studio audience. I don't know if anybody picked up on that. So it's just me and the guest. But when I hear from listeners and to know the value that they're getting, it really does put the wind in my own sail and the work that we're doing. So I want to thank you for that. That was very, very, very nice. And you also put a recommendation on on my LinkedIn profile. And please, listeners, if you are getting value, I would love to hear from you. Let us know what you like. Let us know if there's things you want us to do better. And heck, leaving a review anywhere, leaving a review on our LinkedIn page, our Facebook page, it really does help give permission to others to take a look or to find something. And so for you, Michael, I'm sure somehow you found out about the podcast and you listened to some episodes, and here it is, changed your life in many ways, which we're really happy about. And we want more to be able to do the same that you've done.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So, Michael, if people want to get in touch with you or connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yes, they can contact me through my email, michael@upfrontconsulting.pro, or on LinkedIn using Michael Braun Pro as one of the search indicators.
Beautiful. Connect with Michael. It's so great to have you in the community, the Successful Bookkeeper community, Michael. And on behalf of all of our listeners, thank you again for being on the podcast.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael.
And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can just scroll down to the notes of this podcast and find links that will lead you on your way. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.